I don't just want to know what gets people motivated. I want to know how to get them to buy from me right now. In other words, how do I get them to buy from me, not the other guy, right now instead of later? So I'm going to give you 7 things that we use to get people to buy from us right now. You can take these examples and apply them directly to your selling process. Number 1, future pacing. One thing we do is we try to show people what the path looks like a month, 6 months, a year, or even 10 years from now. So for example, in the case of someone who doesn't know how to talk to women, you might say, think about next Friday night. You go to the bar, you're pumped up with your friends, you have a couple drinks, you say, tonight's the night, I'm gonna meet some great women. You get to the bar, you become frustrated. You say, okay, couple more drinks, then I'll do it. You see a beautiful girl over there, and you don't go up to her, and you get increasingly frustrated because you know you want to talk to her, but eventually you can't because she's talking to someone else, and you go home dejected. Now compare that situation to what your product can offer. You might say something like, compare that person to you. Next weekend, you go out, you see somebody you're attracted to, you confidently walk over, you know exactly what to say, and within minutes, you're both laughing as you tell her a joke. And now compound that 10 times every weekend over the next 6 months. You do the math. See how you're showing them what that process might be? Same thing for weight loss, same thing for happiness, same thing for personal finance, same thing for anything. Show them what it means to be successful a week, a month, a year from now, and don't forget to show them the pain of staying stagnant. That is future pacing. Next, scarcity. We use scarcity strategically, and we use it a lot. There's a reason you'll see the phrase limited time only on advertisements across the world. That's because it works. People might very well need your product and they might want your product, but they often need a little nudge to get them to take action now. Why? Because the default behavior is to do nothing. So scarcity can be very strategically used to get people to take action, always making sure that you're doing this totally ethically. We use scarcity in a variety of ways. So we will do limited time. As you know, my courses frequently close, and we typically see a huge influx of sales right before the course closes. In fact, in some cases, we see more than 1 purchase per minute during the closing parts of a sale. Next, sometimes we use limited space. For example, in the past, we've said, this tier only has room for 150 people. That way I can give you all more individualized attention. You can also use limited bonuses. I've seen other people come up with promotions that include these bonuses, but they're only available for the first 50 people. So think strategically about what limits you can put on your offer. The goal here is not just to take things away, but actually to cause people to take action. Otherwise, they'll miss out. Our next sales trigger that gets people to buy now is something called risk reversal. And this is an interesting concept. It involves understanding every single risk your market has and then systematically taking those risks away. Let me give you an example. If someone were to buy or consider buying one of my courses, what do you think the risks are in their mind? And try to put it in their own words. What would they say? If you think about it, people might say things like, is this right for me? Am I going to get ripped off? How do I know this will work? Or if you really dig deeply, you might find them saying things like, I've joined other online courses before, but I don't really follow through, so why is this going to be different than anything else? That's a really deep risk. Now, as the creator of this product, I want to make sure that I know all of those risks and I take them away one by one. How do I do that? One way I do it is offering a money-back guarantee. And we know from research, including our own, as well as over 100 years of research from the industry, that money-back guarantees generate more sales than the refunds that they produce. So I strongly encourage you to back your product with a money-back guarantee. Typically, you'll see refund rates of, depending on product and market, et cetera, of roughly 10 to 25%. That's well worth it, considering that you'll generate more sales than that. What are some other ways I might take away those risks? If they say, is this for me? Of course, I can show them a page of other successful case studies so they can identify themselves and say, oh, That guy's just like me. He did it, so I can do it. What if someone says, is this thing for real? Or is this a scam? What could you do in response? You could offer testimonials. If you've been covered in the press, you can offer that. You can highlight your own credibility as the course creator. See, what we're doing here is, again, understanding every potential risk that the market has and then addressing those one by one. That's called risk reversal. That is another sales trigger that helps to get people to buy now. The next sales trigger that gets people to buy now is social proof. So we've heard about this in books like Influence by Cialdini. Turns out to be very, very true. People want to join something that other people are joining. Not only do they feel safe, but it shows them, hey, if everyone else is doing this, there must be a reason. It's the same reason we love to go to restaurants where there's a line out the door. Now, you can use this principle strategically in creating your high-value product. Again, we already know your product is going to be helpful for them because you've done all the research. So now we're trying to understand what gets them to take action at this moment. And social proof is a great way of demonstrating that. You can use social proof in a variety of ways. You can show comments from other people, letting them know that they're not alone. You can stream comments like Facebook comments or blog comments right on the page. There are many people who go to a blog post and they see 50 comments, 100 comments, 500 comments. At that point, you start to say, oh, this thing is real. I'm part of something. You can also use press. If you've been covered in the press, you absolutely want to mention that. Maybe it's the logo or maybe a story about getting covered in press. All of these are effective levers for social proof, which show people it's not just someone in their garage. This person has actually been recognized by other people in the world. Another sales trigger we use to get people to take action is to show why our product is a no-brainer compared to the context of all the other choices. Let me give you an example. Let's say that I'm creating a course on finding your dream job, something I've actually created. I'm going to absolutely make sure to frame dream job as a very cost-conscious, no-brainer decision compared to getting an MBA, which at a top-tier school can cost $150,000. Or what about hiring a career counselor who has questionable credentials, and by the way, they don't offer a money-back guarantee? Or, of course, they can go try to do it on their own. It will only take them 10 years, hundreds and hundreds of man-hours, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Finally, if they really don't want to do that, they could go get a $10.95 book. But how do we know it's actually going to work? See how I framed dream job in the context of all those other options? It's important for you to treat your market as an educated marketplace because they are. Now they have more options than ever before. Don't hide from them. Actually be transparent about them. Show them, look, you could absolutely go and get a top-tier MBA, or you could absolutely go and hire a top-tier coach. This is what it's going to cost. And if that's right for you, then I encourage you to do that. But here's why Dream Job is right for most of you. It does X, it does Y, I have a money-back guarantee, and you don't have to worry about risk reversal, risk reversal, risk reversal. See that? That is showing people the context, and it's your responsibility to do that, not theirs. When you educate your market about their options, you can control the flow of information, and that's absolutely critical in getting them to take action. Here's a surprising sales trigger that actually works extraordinarily well in getting people to buy, and that is telling stories. Now, if you go back and look at my original I Will Teach You to Be Rich blog posts, they're very straightforward, very structured, very pedantic. Here's what you need to know about investing. But if you fast forward to my blog posts and emails now, what do you see? A ton of stories. Here's what happened in a bar over the weekend. Here's what happened when I was flying from New York to San Francisco. And there are just a ton of stories. Why? Why do I write all these stories? Is it my unimaginably large ego that needs to be addressed by writing stories about myself? Maybe. But there's also a strategic reason, and that is that we are incapable of stopping listening or reading a story once we begin. We're almost incapable of it. Try it. Go start telling someone a story and then just stop midstream. What do you think they'll say? They'll say, hey, what happened? What's the end of that story? It's because we want to close the loop. We want to know what happened at the end of that story. You can use this same principle strategically. I strongly encourage you to tell stories about yourself. Here's why I'm doing this. Here's how I felt the first time I walked into a room and I looked amazing. Here's what happened when I was picked last for dodgeball. And if there's one common thing I see among novices, people who are first starting, they do the exact same thing I did. They write very prim and proper, never sharing any information about themselves. Whereas the most experienced people are totally open and authentic. They tell stories about themselves. Sometimes the stories end in their success. A lot of times the stories end in their failure. But they're telling stories because they know that we all respond to stories. And that's often what clinches the deal in getting people to take action. This leads us to our 7th sales trigger, a sales trigger that gets us to take action and buy now, and that is liking, trusting. This is a principle from Cialdini's Influence, and we have found it to work extraordinarily well with our business. In general, people buy from an organization or a person they like. That sounds obvious, but think of how many companies you either don't like or you have a totally neutral view of them. I would like for you to be the kind of person that when they see your email, they say, oh yeah, Ramit's emailing me today. What kind of crazy story does he have? What kind of course is he creating this time? That's my goal. That's why I tell stories. That's why I share success stories and also failures from my own life. All of the things we talked about, adding credibility icons if you've been featured in the press, case studies of successful students, telling stories about yourself, all of those combine into your audience liking and trusting you. So you can use all 7 of these sales triggers to get people to buy from you and get them to buy now. Remember, you don't want people to say, oh, I'll get this later, because odds are, and we found those odds to be as high as 99%, if they say later, they will never buy. Get them, if they are the right audience for your product, get them to buy from you and get them to buy now. Use these 7 sales triggers strategically to make that happen for your product. All right, here's your action step for sales triggers. I've provided you a worksheet, and I'm gonna give you 2 hours to go through this worksheet and provide your personal examples for each of these sales triggers. I guarantee this will come in incredibly useful as you take your product to the market, write the copy to get people to take action, and make sure they buy from you and buy now.